Oh, hello there. Hi now. I just thought I'd pop in at the very start of the story to say this is a story where it gets a bit rough in parts. It's venturing into an area I don't normally go into, but I do think it's very important to tell this story because I think some of the courage of the people involved is incredible, and that makes it worth telling. I'll be as gentle with the facts as I can be. Alright, that's it. That's the warning. Let me ask you this. Can you change someone? I'm asking that very seriously. Can you? Can you alter someone's mind, someone's way of life, their desires, their feelings, in fact, their very being? Can you change that? Let me ask you this. Has anyone ever described you as difficult? Has anyone ever described you as troubled? Well, can we change those things in people? Is it possible that we could ever change someone's behaviour? We could try. But surely trying that would be absolutely horrendous for the person involved. But does that matter? Or can we all be reprogrammed? Welcome to Extraordinary Stories Podcast. Hey, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. I'm now just doing a parody of myself when I say that at the beginning of episodes, which makes me laugh. Right, so here we are, once more. You and me and wherever you are listening. Right, so in this episode, I'm going to tell you, it's something I've had a fascination with for a long time. And I think you're going to love this story. I really do. Now, it's rough in parts, as I said in the warning. It does get a bit tricky. But, sometimes the only way out is through. So you have to just get through the story to get to the good stuff. So, before I get to the story, let me do a couple of shout-outs. Okay, hello Sally. Sally. Now I'm going to say Sarawak is your surname. I don't really know how to say it, but Sally, hello. Thank you for your story ideas, Sally. Thank you very much. Amy Folks. Hello, Amy, who asked me if I could say hello and say a big hello to her friend, Thea. So hello, Amy and Thea. This next one, what a name. Sue Ivy Grubb Harris. Great, love that. Sue said, thank you for just being completely nuts, Barry. Just for being nuts. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that description of myself, so thank you very much. Diana Yanishevsky. Oh my god, my Russian is on point. My Russian is so fucking good. Diana Yanishevsky. Diana, you're enjoying the stories, and I'm so glad. Kellyanne, who says, where has Barry been all my life with these stories? Well, I'm right here. Kellyanne, I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going nowhere. And I will continue to tell the stories. Ian Fate Irvin. Hello, Ian. Hi, mate. Thanks for getting in touch. I was in Irvin last week, actually. Lovely. Lovely wee Scottish town. Yes, very nice. And yeah, I'm just going to end the shout outs by saying thanks to the almost 150 new members of the Facebook group. Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming to be a part of that community. I know everyone gets bored of me banging on about Facebook group and the community, but I just can't. I don't know how else to really celebrate it or to say how fantastic it is. Yeah. So there we go. Alright, shout outs done. Let's get on. Are you ready? Okay. Let's go. Okay, Alabama, 2011. Right, so picture this scene. Lots of open land, trees lining dusty roads, and the sun is shining hard. It's gorgeous. It's the kind of place you want to be in, and the kind of place you want to look at. It's absolutely picture perfect. But if you look a little closer, somewhere in that beautiful Alabama landscape, there is a building. And this building, it's a facility. It's a very well-known facility. And it's gated. It's grey. It's got a vibe of being like a prison building. 2 security guards walk up and down outside of it, making sure that no one gets in and no one leaves. Now, in the daylight, when you pass that, I guess you might almost look at it sort of like it might be like a daycare facility, possibly. It might be a retirement home. I don't know. There's lots of things that it could look like in the daylight. But at night, it very much looks like a prison. Now, it's not. But what it is a Christian camp. It's where troubled teens get sent to be sorted out. Or, for want of a better phrase, to be put on the right tracks. So, in this facility, 14-year-old Lucas Greenwright he's from Alabama, and he's there because his parents want him put on the right tracks. Now, just near the facility, it's about maybe half a mile away, there is a train line that runs right through and heads far out of where this place is. all that Lucas wants is to get on that train. He wants to get out of this Christian camp that he's been sent to. And Lucas will say this. He says, it was depressing to hear the trains pass by and not be able to get on them. It upset us all. Okay, right. Who's this all business? Who's this all of you that you're talking about? Well, Lucas is referring to the troubled teens that he has been placed into a room with. The teenagers who've been sent there by their families to live in the Christian camp in order to escape the path that they're going to head down. To change them, basically, change them. To make sure they don't go off the straight and narrow. So what Lucas is actually referring to when he says all is per room, you would have 4 teenagers sharing a room. And they would all be there for entirely different reasons. So you would have people there because they'd been caught smoking weed by their parents. You would have kids who were there because they were maybe a bit rebellious at school. There were kids there because they didn't fear God enough. And the parents felt that they needed to fear God a bit more. A whole range of completely different reasons for teenagers to be sent there. And those who dared to utter the words, I'm gay, or I have homosexual feelings. Because as well as sorting out the bad behaviour of teenagers, this camp also specialised in conversion therapy. So, basically a place to send your gay teenager. If you wanted your teenager to not be gay, this is where you sent them. Great. It sounds brilliant. I love it. So, can you imagine arriving? Right, so what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to give you my child, right, who I think's a bit gay, but if you could just send my child back to me, not gay, that would be brilliant. Excellent. What? The fuck are you talking about? It's fucking nuts. It's nuts, right. So, that's why Lucas is here. He's here to be converted, to see the light, find the right path. I'm assuming the right path is a girlfriend, basically. I don't know. Alright, here's where it gets scary. Who's in charge of this camp? Who runs this facility? An ex-sailor called William Knott is the man in charge. Right, William Knott, let me describe him to you. Well, he is short. He's stout. He gets called squat a lot in descriptions of him. But basically the thing about William Knott is that he looks like the angriest man you've ever seen in your life. He just has a face that is twisted into anger day and night. William Knott has been in charge of this camp for a long, long time. And he is feared by everybody who attends this camp. Basically, kids would go silent when he walked into the room because they knew better than to talk in his presence without his permission. He was just this terrifying presence. And staff who worked there, who left because basically they just couldn't deal with how terrifying and terrible a man he was, they would say were powerless against him because he is such a bully, such a terrible, terrible bully. And he let them know he could get rid of them at any moment. A staff member could just be fired like that. If he wanted that, that would be fine. And the kids were terrified. So, what were his techniques? What did he do to make the youths so scared of him? William Knott liked to use physical violence against the teenagers. He was of the belief you could beat anything out of someone. If someone liked drugs, beat it out of them. Fine, that's the way to do it. He would say if someone has having any kind of homosexual thoughts, beat it out of them. If someone disrespects their elders or doesn't like authority, just beat it out of them. That was his philosophy. So, Lucas has been sent here by his parents because he's 14 years old and his mum and dad are like, we don't want no gay son. We don't want no gay son. So get him into this facility and that'll sort him out. Well, William Knott is determined he will sort Lucas out. He will get rid of the gay. And this is how he's going to do it. By beating Lucas with a series of belts. So Lucas and the other teenagers in the camp, they would be made to strip naked. And it's at that point, when they were naked, that William Knott would get his belt and begin to beat them. Now, there is nothing light or indeed funny about this story at all. The idea of this just makes me so angry. And it's not about the gay thing. It's not about, it's not about the gay thing. It's just about the fact that you would treat any human being like that. So a 13-year-old once smoked a joint. So now they should be sent to these camps and fucking beaten day and night. No. It's not about, it's just, for me, it's just about, it's how you treat human beings. It's just, and this man, this fucking William Knott character, who I would really like to meet in private, in a room with no cameras, and tell him exactly how I feel about him. Now, William Knott had been transferred from an all-boys Christian camp elsewhere in America after a stint in prison, right? A stint in prison for beating young boys. A judge had called him medieval in his torture methods, and yet he was out of prison and he was allowed to run another camp. A short stint in a prison somewhere. Do you know what we'll do? We'll just send him to Alabama. We'll just give him another camp to run. Yeah, sure. Because that makes all the fucking sense in the world. How about we don't? How about we just get him to fuck? How about, oh my god. Right, anyway. So, his torture of teenagers was brutal, and I'll warn you, this is upsetting. I find this really upsetting. He would strip them naked and chain them to sinks in the bathroom and leave them there for days at a time. When they needed to eat, he refused food. When they needed a drink of water, he refused to give them any water. He would leave them hungry for days at a time, until their, as he put it, attitude improved. He would wake them up at 4 a.m. in the morning, and he would make them run around the facility for an hour. And if they showed any, even just the slightest bit of weakness, if they tried to ask for a drink of water, if they tried to stop for a second, he would say, "If you stop, I will make you run for another hour, but I'll make you do it naked." Now, how did William not get away with this? This had been going on for years in this camp. Well, I'll tell you how he was managing to get away with it. He had all of the phone calls that were going in and going out of the camp listened to. So calls made home to parents, he was listening to. And should any teenager even dare to hint or suggest to their parents that they weren't having a wonderful time at this camp, he was down on them straight away. Any mail that was coming in and out, so, kids were writing letters to their parents and sending them home, he read everything that was coming in and going out. Staff who worked there were threatened that if they dared, even fucking dared to breathe a word about what was happening, then their life would be in danger. Now, as we know from true crime stories, you can really only get away with something for a while before trouble begins. People are not stupid. People start to work things out. And there was a little bit of a sort of, I guess, like a bit of a rumbling was going on from a few parents, right? And what was happening was parents were coming to collect their kids from the, month that they'd been at camp. And they were seeing like bruising on their bodies. And they were seeing like, just marks on them. And they were thinking, this doesn't look right. So this kind of rumbling had begun. And we're going to introduce, at this point, the hero of the story. And he is the man who, when the rumbling, the talk, the whispers of what might be going on reaches him, is going to become our absolute fucking star in this story. Captain Charles Kennedy was a veteran police officer from Alabama. Captain Kennedy had a really long-standing career in the police force, and he'd been at the heart of many, many big cases in Alabama. People just loved him because he was great at his job. So in 2011, he was like early 60s, like sort of maybe like 62, 63, something like that. But yeah, a very, very well respected man. And I hope that as we go on in the story, I hope that every time I say his name, you can hear in my voice the love I have for this man, because I just think he's brilliant. And you're gonna realise why. So, a call has come in to the police station that he works in, and it's from a parent saying that her daughter has returned from this camp and her back is really bruised, and her bottom is completely covered in bruises. And Captain Kennedy, he's immediately interested. Now, he had heard whisper, like everyone else had, that there was maybe something going on at this camp, but wasn't sure. And now this call comes in and he thinks, okay, right, I might actually maybe need to look into this a bit deeper. So Captain Charles Kennedy, he sets out on a mission. He goes to the camp and he introduces himself to William Knott, and he says, right, I'm here to do a welfare check, basically. I just really need to look at the whole place. I need to check everything is above board. So I need to check all your paperwork, all your documents. I'm going to need to go around and see all the rooms and just make sure that everything is all right. William Knott has immediately got his back up. He's immediately going, why? Why is there a police officer here? And Captain Charles will just say, look, I'm just doing a check. This is one of the things we do as police officers. We just, we're supposed to just check health and well-being. We'll just make sure everyone is okay. William Knott is not in the slightest happy that the police are looking around his camp, but he doesn't really have a choice. A few days in, Captain Kennedy has been around, he's looked at the dormitories that the kids are made to sleep in, he's seen a few things here and there, and he's getting a vibe that there's like something is going on, but it's being kept very quiet, or people are not really willing to speak very much. And he's sitting on day 3 into his investigation, and he's in William Knott's office. Now, in William Knott's office there were lots of TVs, and these TVs were all showing, like CCTV basically. They were just showing different parts of the camp. So like one was like focused on, the outdoor area, one was focused on the lunch area, one on this particular dormitory. And Captain Kennedy is looking at the screen and he's thinking, what is that? What am I looking at? What am I actually looking at? And he realises what he's looking at is a naked boy in a room with just a light bulb handcuffed to the wall. And he's staring at it and he's thinking, what is this? What am I seeing? So when William Knott comes back into the room, he says to him, what is this? And Knott says, that kid has a bad attitude, and a few more days like that will sort him out. So Captain Charles takes a big deep breath and he says to William Knott, do you understand anything at all about isolation? Do you know how isolation works? And William Knott says, yeah, I understand how isolation works. Thanks very much. It works to punish those with a bad attitude. And Captain Kennedy says, no. We look, and when he's saying we, he means the police force, the judicial system. He's saying we look at isolation as one of the cruelest forms of torture, because to isolate someone, to actually just take them away from every other human being or from any other sort of activity around their life, is one of the cruelest things that you can do. And we reserve it for people who've murdered 20 people and need to be put into isolation. That's what we use it for. We don't use it for 13-year-old boys who've maybe not done anything that wrong. William Knott says, that's what it is. That's how I work here. He's got an attitude. He needs isolation. So Captain Kennedy says to him, okay, well, can you not give him some clothes? He looks fucking terrified and he's freezing. Can you not give him clothes? William Knott says, no, I can't. I need to leave him like that to teach him a lesson. It's at this moment that Captain Kennedy is like, no, not having it. Nope, no way. Not fucking having this happen. I'm going to get to the bottom of what is happening in this place, and I'm going to make sure this fucking William Knott pays for the fucking torture that he's inflicting on kids. So, here's what he does. He sets up interviews with all of the troubled teens individually. And so one by one, the captain brings them into a room and he asks them, just like, what is life like at the camp? What kind of things go on? What's happening? Now the problem is, William Knott is present for every one of those interviews. And the captain's like, well, this is weird. Why are you here in the room? William Knott just will not leave. And so what the captain says is he basically just feels like everybody is too afraid to speak. They're so scared of William Knott. They can't actually verbalise anything. They can't really speak. You know what I mean? They're just like, they're so fucking terrified of saying anything. Now, Lucas, who I mentioned earlier on, the boy who could hear the trains passing by, the boy who was there because his mum and dad felt he was showing gay tendencies. Well, the captain meets him as part of his interviews, and he knows, right? He knows from talking to Lucas that Lucas wants to say, this is horrendous. This is absolutely horrific, but he also knows that he's afraid. But he makes a mental note. Captain Kennedy makes a wee mental note about Lucas and thinks, I'm going to come back to you because I think if someone is going to speak up about this place, it's going to be you. So there's a couple of times during these interviews that William Knott has to leave. And it's in these moments that the captain starts to get a glimpse of the truth. With William Knott out of the room, the kids actually start to open up to Captain Kennedy about what's actually happening. He begins to hear about being dragged out of bed in the middle of the night to fight with someone else. He hears stories of humiliation. He hears the teenagers talking about being whipped and beaten with various different items. He hears stories of being woken up and having to do 200 push-ups. And if you showed any sign of weakness, you'd have to do another 200, but with your clothes off. Now, was William Knott doing this all alone? No, he wasn't. He had two other staff members who also took part in his cruel treatment quite happily. A man called John Young and a woman called Alicia Moffat. So they worked as a 3. As Captain Kennedy is doing his interviews, and he's been around now for a few days, so the kids have seen his face a few different times. What actually happens, and this is so surreal, they start to realise that potentially Captain Kennedy might be their way out of this. He might be the way for them to get help. So what they start doing is they start writing notes just on bits of paper and forcing it into his hand when they think that William Knott isn't looking. So they wait for an opportunity when Captain Kennedy just happens to be walking through, I don't know, say the lunchroom, and they slip a note into his hands. And the notes that he's got from these kids say things like, I was choked last night and my head was slammed against the wall. Another note says, please help us, we might die in here. Another note, oh God, this one breaks my heart. It says, please call my dad and ask him to save me. Captain Kennedy will say later that he understood the risk that these kids were taking, that it was massive. Slipping these notes to him was really dangerous given the level of brutality that William Knott was working with. Given that William Knott's behaviour was completely out of control, it took a real risk to pass on those notes. So if we go back just slightly, just ever so slightly, to the boy in the isolation room. His name is Robert. The boy that Captain Kennedy saw on the camera and asked, can you not get him some clothes? He is Robert. And the captain says, right, I need to speak to him. I need to interview him 1-to-1. William Knott says, no, absolutely not. And Captain Kennedy says, well, you can keep saying no to me, but you could also remember I'm a police officer. So when I'm asking to speak to this boy, you will bring this boy to me for me to speak with. I fucking love a bit of Captain Kennedy, honestly, I do. I'm a wee bit obsessed with him. I think he's amazing. Captain Kennedy has time alone with this boy, and he says, talk to me about what's been happening here. And what he discovers is that this boy is here because he was suffering from depression, and his parents felt that his constant threats of I might kill myself or I might harm myself, I just feel really sad today, were too much for them. So they sent him to this Christian camp to deal with it, because they thought, right, we'll go, it's fixable. It's totally fixable. But when he arrived at the camp, Robert, God, 13 years old, just kept saying, I'm really thinking about suicide. I'm really thinking that I might actually kill myself. So Captain Kennedy listens to this and he says, okay, this is really, really difficult, and if I can in any way, I will try to get you the treatment that you need. You know, we'll try and find a way to help it. But he says to him, so what's happened to you, Robert, since you've come to this camp? Robert then tells this story. In the middle of the night, he was dragged out of his bed and he was brought to William Knott's office. William Knott sat behind a table and said to him, how are you feeling, Robert? This 13-year-old boy must have been fucking terrified. He said, I still feel like killing myself. At which point, William Knott, the man who runs this fucking camp, took a gun out of his drawer, passed it to Robert, and said, if you're going to continually talk about killing yourself, then do it. Don't fuck us about here. You say you want to die? Here's a gun. Put it to your temple and shoot yourself. Don't fucking say you want to die if you're not going to go through with it. 13-year-old Robert lifted the gun to his temple, looked into the eyes of William Knott, and he pulled the trigger. But there were no bullets in the gun. This was another William Knott teaching them a lesson. Oh my god. So, can you fucking imagine what Captain Kennedy felt hearing this story? Hearing it from Robert, who's sitting in front of him. He's like, are you fucking joking me? This guy pulled out a gun. Okay, there was no bullets in it, but fuck's sake, he handed a 13-year-old a gun and told him to put it to his temple. Right, so by this point, Captain Kennedy is like, right, I'm going to bring this man down. Now, it's important to say at this point, this is a Herculean task for the captain. And he's not scared of it. He's not scared of it in the slightest, but it's just really not as simple as, okay, let's write a report and the whole place gets closed down. If only it was that simple, that would be fine. But this is going to be really, really difficult because the teenagers, they won't speak in front of William Knott. They'll talk to the captain when they're on their own with him, but they will not speak when William Knott is anywhere nearby because they are so scared. Also, what's really difficult here is, where is the proof? Where is the evidence? This is a lot of talk. This is a lot of stories. This is a lot of people saying things. And okay, yeah, some kids are coming back and they've got bruises on the back and they've got, different injuries. But actually, all of that can kind of be excused in one way or another. William Knott is very good at finding a way to, talk around things. So, the captain is really struggling because he's like, what evidence do I actually have? The other part of the problem here, and do not get me wrong, podcast listeners, please, in any way whatsoever, I myself I didn't go to a Christian camp, but I went to Sunday school, and I have family who go to lots of different Christian events. So this is in no way me trying to, I'm not attacking that world. I'm really not, in any way whatsoever. But the problem here is, these camps are wrapped up in a lot of money. This is $1 billion industry in America. So there is huge money behind it. This very camp is being funded by local churches. That, and also the $2,000 it costs a parent to send their child for a month. Nearly 400,000 teenagers a year in America are sent to these reform camps. And that's where it becomes really tricky, because for Captain Kennedy, you can go, there's the most abhorrent fucking practices happening in this one place, but can you do anything about it when it's part of a bigger organisation? This isn't your local, you know, run down the street girl scouts group on a Tuesday night where everyone gets together and does lovely things. This is part of something way, way, way bigger. Do you know what I mean? Like those local clubs that I went to loads of them, and you know, whatever, so you'd have your, like, I don't know what they were, like play. I used to go to like a play thing on a Tuesday night. That was absolutely fine, but it was always run by some, you know, all these kind of things I'm talking about. This is bigger. This is way. Just to give you a bit of very, very, very quick history, the model for these camps began in the 1960s, and they were actually designed for girls to begin with. They weren't designed for boys, they were designed for girls, because girls needed reformed. Because God forbid. I'm imagining in the 60s, it was like, God for fucking bid, she's dared to have an opinion. She has dared to step out of line to what we think a fucking girl should look like, or a woman should be like. I would place my life on that's pretty much where it would have fucking started. Fuck off. But that's where it came from. And I watched interviews, right? I watched a couple of interviews when I was researching this with the man who ran the very first girl reform camp, which just gives me like a fucking sick feeling when I say it. I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to maybe die a little bit when I heard him say this phrase, talking about disciplining the girls. He says, it's about breaking the will of the child. If you're not bruising them when you're spanking them, then you're not spanking hard enough. Sorry, what? I'll fucking bruise you, mate. I'll actually bruise your fucking face. What you... Oh. Anyway, I'm glad to say that the man who set up the reform school for girls was stripped of all of his rights to do with children. He was never allowed near children ever again. Thank fuck. Alright, so what does Captain Kennedy do? Well, so he's sort of got information now, right? He's got bits and pieces. He goes around and he takes photographs in the camp, and he finds like handcuffs. He finds some like shackles in some of the teenagers' rooms. And when he asks just casually what they're about, he's told that these are what William Knott uses to restrain those who have a bad attitude. So they would be handcuffed to the bed until their attitude improved. I'm just going to move on from that because otherwise I'll be sick. So, Captain Kennedy goes back to the camp one more time and he says, I need to see each teenager individually and I need to interview them one more time. What he's looking for here is he's looking for anyone who can support his findings. What he's really hoping is Lucas. He's hoping that Lucas could be that one. But here's what happens. He gets there to conduct his interviews. William Knott is there. And the teenagers are brought in one by one. And each teenager is naked. Completely naked. And Captain Kennedy is like, why are they naked? What's going on here? What's actually happening? William Knott says, I'm teaching them a lesson. So William Knott's standing in the room as the captain interviews them, and each child is naked. So he doesn't get much from his interviews. Again, they're just terrified to speak. But here's what happens afterwards. William Knott makes each child write a letter that says, "Dear William, I was interviewed by a police officer, and the officer made me get naked." What he's doing here, what William Knott is doing here is essentially he's making 40 odd kids write a letter that says that the captain made them get naked so that should there be any shit thrown against his fucking camp, he can hand over 47 letters that go, Charles Kennedy's a paedophile. And he's not. Fucking hell, William Knott is a piece of work. He is a real piece of work. Captain Kennedy knows nothing about these letters. He's horrified by the whole entire thing. He's going home. His wife is really, oh my god, I really love his wife as well. She sort of talks about the journey he went through. And she's like, he would come home from days where he'd been like around the cat, and he just would be like a shell of himself, because he just kept saying, I cannot believe someone is getting away with putting teenagers through this. I just cannot believe someone is doing that. And kind of during his struggle, he was having a really hard time finding ways to prove what was happening. And people kept saying to him, look, the thing is, yes, you're a very well seasoned police officer, and yes, we know you know what you're doing, but also the church is hard. If you're trying to break, a terrible story within the church, that's hard. There's a lot you're going to be up against if you try and do that. And he goes, well, I know that, but what do you want me to do? Just because it's hard, not do it? Is that a fucking reason to do anything in your life? No, it's not. What he'll often say to people, and again, this is another one of these where you might just need to take a big deep breath after hearing the words that I'm going to say. Captain Kennedy says, I won't stop the campaign against this fucking Christian camp because of the words that William Knott once said to him, which were these: it's better a pink bottom than a black soul. And that's why Captain Kennedy doesn't give up. What he has is a few different statements from the teenagers that he's been able to get when he's like snatched a kind of moment with them here and there. He's got the handwritten letters that they've given to him. He's got a written report of Robert detailing having a gun in his hand. And he's got some photographs of like the handcuffs and the shackles. Now, it's not great, if I'm honest. It's not a great amount of stuff, but it's enough. It is enough to cause a bit of a stir. And that's really what he wants to do. He just basically wants to cause a stir and get a bit of activity going on it. But stronger than that, much, much stronger than that, he's actually got a drive. He's got a real drive to make sure that William Knott and his two fucking co-workers, John Young and Alicia Moffat, don't get away with it. So he goes to the district attorney and he presents his findings. Now, he has all the paperwork, right? And it's in a briefcase. And he hands it over. And the district attorney goes, okay, I'm willing to hear this. I'm really willing to hear this. If there's something terrible going on, I want to know about it. Hand me the briefcase. And he is thinking, yes, queen, something is going to happen, right? He's like, brilliant. Going to hand this briefcase over. It's all going to be good. Now he's right, because something is going to happen, but it's not what Captain Kennedy is expecting. A week after handing the briefcase over, he gets it back, and it's missing half of the paperwork that was originally in it. Half of the documents he'd handed over are gone. So he's going, well, where are the documents I gave you? And he's told by the district attorney's office, that's all you gave us? You didn't give us any more than that? And he's like, no. Where are all of the handwritten notes from the teenagers? The ones who are pleading for help? They say, oh, well, no, there weren't any notes in this briefcase when you gave it to us. And he's going, look, half my fucking evidence is missing here. I just gave you this. And they say, nah, what you gave us, unfortunately, wasn't enough. So the district attorney has decided there's not really much point in pursuing this case because you don't really have any evidence. Captain Kennedy is like, I fucking gave you the evidence. Half of it is missing, and now you're telling me there's not enough evidence to do anything with this case. So he's completely turned away. Next, he goes to the Children's Protection Services. And he goes straight to the top. He goes to a woman called Beth Nelson, and she's the director of the Children's Protection Service. He explains the whole entire situation. And she says, okay, I'm going to take you seriously. I will go myself and investigate this. So he's thinking, right, okay, this time it's going to work. This time it has to work. So Beth Nelson, she gives the camp 2 days notice warning that she is coming under Children's Protection Services to do an inspection of the camp. She goes. She spends a full day in the camp. And when she returns, she says to Captain Kennedy, I saw no signs of abuse. I saw no negligence. And I see no reason that this camp shouldn't continue to run. Now he is devastated. He's like, how can this be? I am not making this up. Like, I haven't invented this story. I haven't invented it. Beth Nelson, she'll say, I had a chat with William Knott and his 2 co-workers, Young and Moffat, and I've decided that everything is above board. So as I said, she'd given them 2 days notice. I think that's, by law, you have to do that. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. I think by law, you have to give anybody. Well, it's like landlords, isn't it? Like coming into your house. They have to give you a bit of a... they have to give you a bit of work. I think it's 24 hours for that. Oh no, oh my god. I once had a landlord who did not obey these rules. And did not give me 24 hours warning. And walked in on a Sunday morning only to find me. And anyway, do you know what? I think this story's for another time. I think it's for a late night podcast. I don't think it's for now. But Captain Kennedy will not give up. He goes higher up the chain. He goes to the Alabama Attorney General and he reports his findings. And he's listened to, and another investigation of the camp takes place, and he's told once more there doesn't seem to be any real evidence of what you're talking about. And so it gets dropped once again. Now, you'd be forgiven, right, for thinking at this point, is he mad? Like, is he actually crazy? Like, is this happening? Because this is now the third time he's been told, none of us can really see anything wrong with it. But no. What he's really aware of is there is a major cover-up going on. And by hook or by fucking crook, he is going to get this sorted. So what he does next is he goes to the newspapers. I think this is a good move. I think this is a, it's a slightly left field move, but it's what he has to do. What he really wants is he wants to stir up some attention, because what he wants is he wants to potentially draw out of the woodwork all the kids who might have been through it before, parents who've also seen their kids come back with bruises and marks and mental health issues. He wants to draw them out, so he thinks, well, the papers is the way to do it. So he gets a journalist at the Alabama press office to write the story, and she does an amazing job. She raises loads of questions in the article, and she really interestingly, she talks about what Captain Kennedy has found there. She actually focuses not on William Knott, but more on Alicia Moffat as a female abuser. Now, that's a rabbit hole to go down a whole other time. But yeah, that's the kind of angle she puts on it, is female abuser helps facilitate these other abusers, etc. 2 days after that article is published, that journalist is sacked. As are 3 other people who contributed to the story. Sacked. Fucking just gone. Gone. See you later. And when Captain Kennedy tries to track them down, they can't be found. He finds out they have been relocated to another part of Alabama, all for writing one article about this place in a newspaper. Now, I will say, during all of this, Captain Kennedy had actually retired. But the day after his retirement, he was back in the police office, determined he would not rest until these teenagers got some sort of justice for what they were being subjected to. So he's not being paid to do any of this. He's just going, I'm now making this my life's work because I'm gonna sort this. So he's going to an appointment with a lawyer one day, and it's to try and track down those missing documents from the briefcase. He sees yellow police tape with "Do Not Cross" written on it, and 2 police cars parked outside of the camp. He pulls over and he recognises the detective who is at the scene. Captain Kennedy walks up to him and he says, "Have they finally killed a kid?" And the detective says, no. No, thankfully no one is dead, but if we hadn't got here sooner, who knows what might have happened. So why the police tape? Why is the whole area closed down? Well, a mother who had come to collect her son from the camp was so shocked by his condition that she ordered the staff to take her on a tour around the place, and she photographed all the rooms where there were handcuffs on the beds. She photographed all the shackles that were on the ground. She photographed her child's body, which was bruised and beaten, and she went straight to the police. And so without warning, the police did a raid. There was no warning this time for William Knott in the way that it was before. You know, he didn't have his 2 days warning to make sure everything looked fine. Police broke in the middle of the night, and they found exactly what they thought they were going to find. Kids naked in rooms, chained to sinks, shackles placed around kids' feet to stop them from moving. William Knott, his co-workers John Young and Alicia Moffat were arrested on the spot. The 47 teenagers who were currently at the camp were sent back to their parents. Bruised, some of them with stories of horrific sexual abuse, and damaged, mentally and physically damaged. So how did Captain Charles feel? Well, vindicated, but also delighted, because finally he'd been heard. He'd had a long old journey to get there, and although he battled against the odds and, you know, in the end, yes, it was the photographs that a mother took that brought this whole thing to its knees. He didn't care, because he just wanted to see these 3 staff members in court. Now, when it came to court, as a potential witness, he wasn't allowed to sit in the courtroom, but for the 4 days of the trial, he sat outside of the room, just waiting and hoping and praying that a jury would do the right thing. As the trial's happening, Captain Kennedy fights for something, and I think this is so important. He fights for the voice of a teenager in that room. He says, can we get a teenager in here who can tell the truth about actually what the hell was going on? And remember Lucas, the boy who could hear the trains, the one that Captain Kennedy knew was on the verge of just being able to tell the story. He convinces Lucas that he should get up in court and tell exactly his story, so that the jury can hear it, the judge can hear it, and that everyone in there can hear the abuse that he went through. Lucas is a little bit reluctant at first, doesn't really want to relive that time, and Captain Charles pleads with him, and he says, please, because this is bigger than you. This is for kids everywhere across the world who are being abused. Speak up for them now. Speak up and say something about it. I know it's horrendous, I know it's terrible to have to do, but you doing this will have an effect. And so Lucas agrees. Lucas by this point is about 17 years old. He's a few years on from Christian camp, but the scars that William Knott has left on him have never faded. And he tells a story. And it's heartbreaking. It's brutal. It's just disgusting. It's horrific. William Knott, Johnny Young, and Alicia Moffat are all on trial for sexual abuse charges, violence against a minor charges, and cruelty. So, the jury, they go to deliberate, and it takes 24 hours. The captain is so anxious during the time that the jury are out. He's pacing up and down, he's wondering, and then his phone rings. And it's the detective, the one from the scene with the yellow tape. And his detective friend says, "Have you heard the news?" And Captain Kennedy says no. And the detective says, "They found the bastards guilty." Captain Charles Kennedy bursts into tears. And he asks the detective, can he please just repeat what he said, just so that he can make sure, absolutely make sure, that he's heard it correctly. And once more the detective says, "They found the bastards guilty." William Knott, John Young, and Alicia Moffat were all sentenced to 20 years each in prison with no chance of parole. I don't know if 20 years is long enough, but, it's better than nothing. Okay, so what next? Well, that's nice, that's happy, because, the bad guys got caught, but what's the fallout of that? I mean, the fallout is, God, serious mental health issues, problems for these teenagers as they go through their life. And so remember the boy, Robert? The gun to the head, naked in the room. Robert is now in prison for driving under the influence of drugs 3 times, and is losing 4 years of his life in prison. Now, the captain actually went to Robert's trial to plead with the judge, and he says, "Look, right, I can tell you this, Robert's not just a druggie. He's not. He has mental health problems, and I know the root of these problems. So can you please not send him to prison for, taking drugs? Can you please send him to a mental health facility?" And the judge says, "No, he needs to go to jail." Lucas is now living a really good life for himself. He's happy, but will still say that to this day he will never be able to probably get over what happened in the month that he was under this fucking spell of William Knott. Captain Kennedy is heading towards his 70s now, but he is not giving up. His work now is to go around and just uncover wherever there are dark secrets, wherever there are terrible practices happening within camps, within schools, anywhere. Captain Kennedy will show up and he will work his way. He'll work his magic to try and, fight the good fight for young people who really are terrified and need an adult to step in and help them. He's still incredibly determined. But, he fights a good fight every day. And I'm just going to end on what he has to say, and I think it's a really fitting end to the story. He says, "One of my greatest satisfactions is knowing that these children who suffered so much at their hands, justice has been served in some way." He says, "But you cannot return youth. If youth has been stolen from them, you cannot give that back. You can't restore the mental and the physical damage that was done. But if I can, in any way, help even one child who is suffering, then I can go to bed each night knowing I've done something good." And so ends the story. Alright, can we just give Captain Charles Kennedy a round of applause? I love it. Brilliant. What a man. What a man. God. Yeah, so I know that was dark, and I do avoid all stories of, to do with any sort of child abuse. I just find them too hard. I just can't really, I can't process it. I can, but I just get a wee bit like, oh, I don't like it. It's messy. It's whatever. But this one, I was like, no, I think I need to tell this story because there's a lot going on. So, if you would like to get in touch, please do. You can join the Facebook group. It's great. You can find me on Twitter. Extraordinary... No, what's it called? You think... No, Extra Stories Pod is what it's called. It's great. It's good that I know that. And, Instagram. Extraordinary Stories Podcast. So, everyone, until the next time, when we speak again. I swear, do you know what I'm going to get? I'm going to get, right, maybe, right, does anyone out there have a good idea for how I might end the podcast? Anyone? Just anything you could say to me would be really good, because I'm awful at ending the podcast. Oh, I can start it, I can say some stuff in the middle, but still, it's the getting out of it is awful. And I know for other people it's like really easy to do. I find it really hard. I think it's because I find it hard to say goodbye. But if you've got an idea, if you've got something that you think might work in this moment, well, can you give me a suggestion? Because I don't know how to do it. Right. Well, okay. This has been the worst one ever. This is the fucking worst ever. The worst outro known to man. Okay. Goodbye. Oh, you're a fucking idiot. Oh my god, you're a fucking idiot.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.
So you remember Lucas, who I remembered? And he sees a yellow police car and some tape. Oh no, hang on. It doesn't say yellow police car. What the fuck are you talking about, Barry? It doesn't say yellow police car. So, he sees a yellow man. No, it doesn't say a yellow man. What? Let's say a yellow man. Right. He see. He.
Let's get it on. Let's do it. Let's get it over.